Now, has Motability, the government scheme to provide cars to the disabled, morphed into a £7 billion scam? Well, the scheme now supplies 1/5 of all new British cars. But listen to this, ADHD claims have rocketed by an incredible 1,400%. And now balaclava-clad, benefit-claiming TikTokers are encouraging the public to cash in on this under the controversial taxpayer-funded scheme. Have a look.
You could get an Abarth 695 Sport, the one with the nice exhaust system, for £500. That is absolutely insane. If you have a family member who's on PIP or if you're on PIP yourself, you can exchange that allowance to get this car, and realistically it's £300 per month. I mean, insurance, my insurance is £300 per month. You get a full car that's fully insured, maintained, serviced, and you get 60,000 miles for £500. And in fact, if you get it today, you don't have to pay a penny. So it's essentially free.
What an absolute plank. And joining me now is the media campaign manager of the Taxpayers Alliance. He's not one of them. It's William Yarwood. William, this started off as a laudable scheme to understandably and you know, all good reason to help the neediest. This, when you see someone in a balaclava encouraging people to be able to scam a car, that's how it feels for a few grand. Then we look at some of the figures you've got, it's turned into something altogether different. Talk us through some of these incredible numbers you've got here.
Yeah, can I first just say that video makes me pretty sick, actually, because that's making a mockery of people who are genuinely disabled and genuinely need hope, and the person who made that should be, quite frankly, ashamed of themselves. But this is the issue with modern Britain, and we have a sort of sick note culture and a system which people think they can easily game. In regards to Motability more specifically, you mentioned the 1,400% increase in ADHD claims. There's also claims for autism. So there's an autism claim of it's increased by over 700%, which is pretty crazy. And that's costing billions and billions of pounds to our ordinary taxpayers, many of whom can't afford the cars themselves, have to get on, you know, public transport and the like, and quite frankly are suffering under a record high tax burden. All the while, people like that person on that TikTok video are gaming the system and shafting hardworking taxpayers. And I frankly think, Martin, it's not fair at all.
And that's the way it seems to be here. People seem to, we have the same problem with benefits bills per se. It's like now the more of it is mental health and not physical disability. It's harder, if you like, to prove. How do we know somebody has got ADHD and that to a point where it actually stops them being a functioning everyday human? And how do we know it's not just somebody who's watched a TikTok video who's decided I can get a free car for £7 grand because everyone's at it, well, hey, let's get stuck in. And isn't that the problem? It's now gone from helping the neediest to something which is just helping people, it seems, to get around the rules, and as you say, it's the taxpayers picking up the bill.
Yeah, totally. And in regards to how people are getting diagnosed with these sort of things, ever since COVID ended, do you know that only like 2% of claims for the DWP, they're only done in person? It used to be 80% done in person before the pandemic. So the pandemic completely revolutionised and sort of destroyed the stigma around dealing with the welfare state, to the point where people can say trigger words, so to speak. They'll say they're suicidal, they've got depression, they can't sleep, so on and so forth. And they will just sign off those checks and go, yep, there we go. But actually there's an incentive inside of the system. Fraser Nelson did an excellent documentary on Channel 4 Dispatches on this exact issue and found that actually DWP assessors are incentivised to push through as many claims as possible. Do you know why? Because it's more profitable.
It's more profitable to put cases through?
Yeah. So they get about £80 a day. £80 per... Yes, because they farm them out to private companies.
Oh, my God.
And in regards to Motability's profitability, I mean, they're happy with all of this. I mean, Motability had a turnover of over £7 billion last year, and the charity behind it, Martin, they're sitting on reserves of over £4 billion. Right, so that's all stemmed from taxpayers' money. That's not coming from the private sector. So it's a huge scam, and actually I think it's a huge Ponzi scheme, and the more we're talking about it, the more I think it's about to explode.
And the numbers of the salary, the Motability CEO, Andrew Miller, this is all official data, this is all out there. He's on 460 grand plus 198 grand bonuses. And as you say, the more cars they knock out, then the bigger the bonus, right? That's the way this works. When you add all of that up, it's basically him and his chief financial officer. It's basically £1 billion.
Yeah. basically.
It's £1 million.
Yeah.
It's £1 million between the pair of them, and their job is to make sure more cars go out to taxpayers or not taxpayers, for those on benefits. That's the point, right?
Yeah.
This would be perhaps a great idea if it were a private enterprise. It's not.
Yeah, quite exactly. I mean, as I said earlier, many taxpayers just can't afford cars in the current climate due to the cost of living crisis, due to the fact that we're now sitting under a record high tax burden. But yeah, there's been just a breakdown in social trust in the UK, especially post-COVID, to the extent where people feel like, well, if someone else is gaming the system, I'll be able to game the system too. And we've seen it with the rise of influencers, not just to do with Motability, but to do with all kinds of disability benefits. I mean, the Times did an excellent piece on this, which meant that welfare claimants had just skyrocketed over the last few years. It's quite scary, actually, because our welfare bill is just growing and growing and growing. And the current Labour government says they want to try and sort out this welfare bill, but they've got a hell of a task on their hands. And quite frankly, the last Conservative government didn't do much about it, and I'm not sure this one will either.
The current benefits bill is on course to be £100 billion per year.
More than we spend on defence.
More we spend on defence by the end of this decade, by 2040, beg your pardon. An eye-watering sum of money. Thank you very much for joining us. William Yarwood, Media Campaign Manager, Taxpayers Alliance. Always a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you very, very much indeed. Now, in response, the Department of Work and Pensions has given us this statement. The scheme comes at no additional cost to the taxpayer. People claiming benefits must sacrifice some of their existing payments to lease a car.